Bodycount's a really intense arcade shooter. It's a back-to-basics shooter. It's all about the gun experience. I'm Bodycount's game director. That means I'm responsible for the vision. There's a few weapons in the game. We've not focused on a massive roster. We've taken a smaller list of weapons that we liked and we've polished the hell out of them.
I'm the principal weapon designer at Bodycount. Basically anything that lends itself to the presentation of the guns in the games I've had a hand on. Firing a weapon in real life is quite a visceral, dynamic experience, and we've tried to emulate that as best we can. I mean, through synchronization of things like rumble, pumping the field of view, rising the camera during the recoil, really trying to get that sense of that punch in the weapon coming through the TV, through the pad.
As part of the level design team on Bodycount, my job is primarily to help design and build the environment that the gameplay takes place in. For me as a designer, it's quite an important thing for the player to feel like they have a choice. And so, yeah, the weapons are big, they're very strong, pretty angry, and there's quite a lot of nuance in them. So we're really trying to get the player to understand them and, come to find their favorites.
My favorite weapon in there would probably be the shotgun. Really good fun to use up close. You can blow people off their feet, through windows, through walls, all kinds of things. I mean, it's a real satisfying gun to use.
The intensity of Bodycount mostly comes from the shredding, so you're not able to hide anywhere very long, particularly if you're outdoors behind a pile of something. What you'll find is that as the bullets start flying, you actually take a lot of fire through cover, and that keeps you moving. So the cover lean mechanic in Bodycount is our attempt to introduce a non-sticky cover system for an FPS. So you grab the left trigger, it routes you to the spot in a semi-iron sight mode, but then you've got full range of movement on both the analog sticks that allows all that pivoting and weaving about.
So what we're trying to do with the focus mode is bring the gun back so it's not covering the thing, but obviously the field of view widens, you go closer into the gun, the audio for the gun changes, then you can hear the internal workings of the gun a little bit more. The impression we wanted to get was you getting on top of the gun, and then when you fire the gun, it's obviously very wild, but in the way we handle the recoil and everything, we get hold of the gun and we tame the beast and start to bring it back down.
Explosions, VFX, all of that stuff, very, very important to the game. So if a bullet hits something, if a grenade goes off, we want you to feel that the world has been impacted, and part of that is having big, meaty explosions and tons of stuff flying everywhere.
But if an explosion goes off in a dark place, it's obviously a brand new light source. So in reality, your eyes would struggle to, accept that light in, so everything kind of blooms out essentially. And we've kind of simulated things like that in the game as well, even down to the muzzle flashes.
My favourite weapon is actually one of the ones we've invented for the target, who are the bad guys in the game. We've taken some real-world style technology. It's basically a portable railgun called the Kaluka, and we've completely fantasized it. So we've created a really powerful and brutal weapon that's very, very effective.
For me personally, it's got to be the shotgun every time. It forms two roles. Firstly, it's brilliant for shredding, especially in multiplayer. It's really useful for getting through those walls quickly. But also, if you've got an enemy between you and that wall, you'll blow them straight through.
We've definitely done something that is different to everything else out there. It's dynamic, it's fun.
FPS fans are going to enjoy Bodycount because it actually feels impactful to fire a weapon. We spent a lot of time crafting that and making it feel really, really violent.
What we're trying to do is just make it all just crazy over the top.
So I'm the art director on Bodycount. I'm specifically responsible for making sure that everything in the game has one coherent aesthetic look. So in Bodycount, you've landed in a really, really torn up, war-torn world. It's an old world, it's a dying world. It's a very unusual way to start a game when we drop the parachute into what's effectively a very old sort of British colonial style town. And from that point on, all of the different stages that you go through are completely different to the last one.
The environments in Bodycount are very fantasized, but they're also very bright and vibrant. We've used the entire colour wheel in the game. We go all the way through it, from hot, polluted, yellowy green Africa, through a sort of midnight neon Asia, and then into the belly of the beast at the end, where we set you against the target in a very fiery, hellish cauldron.
I wanted the colour to sort of match the mood. So you begin the game in Africa with yellows, and as that begins to get a little more sinister and, you know, bloodthirsty and more torn apart, it becomes to get a little more toxic. And then after that, the pacing of the game moves on to more dark and sinister things. It was important for me that all these locations that we went to and visited, they had a sort of natural feel to them, and there was a visual narrative to a lot of the stages. I wanted to tell stories. It was important for me to make the world seem believable. So you'll see where the compound's been overrun like Zulu and people have smashed the bus through the door to get in, and this all goes towards explaining why a lot of the environments are abandoned and derelict. There's nothing left there other than war, so there's no moral ambiguity about killing absolutely everybody.
So you're a soldier fighting for an organisation known as the Network. You think that you're being sent in to fight the good fight and mop up the conflicts around the world that the governments of the world don't want to take care of themselves. Now, as you get through the first act, it becomes apparent that someone else has been poking the hornet's nest and there's something else going on here. And that's where we introduce the target. The target are the real threat, they're the real bad guys.
So Target's style and philosophy and their presence in the world is really sort of a dystopian, evil, really oppressive. The real cue for style was just a phrase, the cutting edge, so you're always met with a sharp edge with them. So everything I started drawing began having cutting edges right down the centre of them, so the guns, everything, you're always being met with a sharp edge, like an axe being thrown at you. Really important thing for me was to make it look like the organisation had unlimited wealth and resources. So I really went for a sort of stealth by Bang & Olufsen look to things. A lot of the reward for the player is the first time you come up against a target, and the buildings are going to be very tough, they're going to be very hard to get into. We get inside their building, and the initial frustration of not being allowed in is rewarded by the fact that you really do become a bull in a china shop for these things. They don't expect you to be inside, so you're able to completely destroy all the glasswork, all the ceramic things.
Bodycount's AI is completely class-based, so the idea is that we've put these different classes together that operate in very different ways and have different behaviours. So, for example, we've got a medic in there who can revive fallen soldiers. We've got a scavenger who will steal the game's currency intel from you and stop you from getting access to your upgrades. We've got heavy tank classes. So lots and lots of different types of AI. But then on top of that, we've got three factions. So we've got the army and the militia, and then we've got the target hidden in the background.
It was important for me that when we were making Bodycount that it had a handcrafted art look, and that extended to the characters as well. Each of the factions have their own unique sort of signature colours, and all of those characters are sort of styled and branded to be very, very different.
Now, whenever these factions meet each other in the battlefield, they'll fight in a completely dynamic way, and that class-based behaviour on both sides will dictate how that battle plays out. It's different every time, and it's going to be a different experience for you each time you go in and attack that firefight. A lot of Bodycount's uniqueness comes from the way in which we've used shredding and destruction, so we're not using it for set pieces, we're actually using it in the second-to-second experience.
To be able to go into a world that looks really, really nice and it's really aesthetically pleasing, and then actually start destroying that world and smashing it to pieces is just really satisfying. Even from a tiny handgun, you feel like you're really kicking the ass out of the world. Because there's so much environmental destruction, you're never going to get the same playthrough twice. Each building will be different.
What makes Bodycount worthwhile for me, what makes it better in that sense, is the fact that we've stepped into some slightly different territory and we've produced a game that's got its own strong identity and doesn't deliberately set out to clone what other people have done.
Bodycount's the best thing since sliced bread, before or after, assuming that you can actually destroy the sliced bread with a large heavy machine gun.
So the demo of Bodycount takes place very early in the game, and what we've gone for is a really good display of what Bodycount's capable of and what players can expect when they buy the full game.
The Bodycount demo takes an early slice out of the game, which sees you going up against an African warlord, holding up in a shanty town, and lets you go in, destroy the environment, and really having fun with the core mechanics that we've got in Bodycount.
When you play, you'll start out in secret in this sort of outlet flow pipe underneath a large freeway. When you come out into the sunlight, you get dazzled by the glare. First thing that you'll notice is two large sets of people tearing each other to pieces with machine guns across this trench. And you'll be very much sort of like the new guy in the saloon, and they'll both turn on you. And you have to fight your way through that towards your end goal. You're realised that the lean mechanic that we've got, the shooting experience, the destruction, all hang together in quite a cinematic, satisfying way when you're playing the game.
Fans should expect explosions, colour, fun, and something they've never seen before.
Fans should expect a lot of mayhem, a lot of destruction, fun, fast-paced, arcade action. It's a very uplifting, fun, colourful game, and much more of an A-team experience than some sort of dour, self-obsessed, self-important thing. This is a fun game. If you want to have fun, play Bodycount.
You're gonna have to shred through the walls to reach it.
For me, my favourite part of Bodycount's got to be the destruction. It's been a challenge to implement it technically, and also a challenge from a design perspective, but I think we've really hit something unique.
Unless you actually pick it up and play it, it's not going to be as good. You really, really need to get in there.
Ultimately, we have created one of the most visceral gunplay experiences I've ever seen in a game. And really, the only way you're going to get to grips with that is by playing it in the demo.
I want to see people getting the game in their hands and actually playing it. Because it's one thing to look at somebody else shooting someone, but if you want to have the actual personal experience of it, you have to be in control of it. So everyone should download it and actually play it to see how much fun it is to go into a beautiful world and then smash it to pieces and kill everyone in there.
I'm Ron McKenzie, Senior Designer on Bodycount, and I've been dealing with the multiplayer co-op experience and the second-to-second design of the game. You're not going to be able to find shredding, explosions, or just be able to throw a guy through a wall with a shotgun anywhere else apart from in Bodycount.
So as well as the single-player mode, Bodycount also contains multiplayer and co-op modes.
The versus modes are the deathmatch, team deathmatch, which deals with player versus player.
Co-op is a siege mode with you and a buddy taking on wave upon wave of enemies.
It's fine when you start taking on the standard classes early on in the game, but once you've stayed in that area for a certain amount of time, there's no cover left.
Changing mag.
Lots of different classes coming in, wave after wave of enemies.
You're really going to have to rely on your friends to get you through to the next level.
We've managed to maintain the level of shredding across both single player and multiplayer and co-op.
Watching walls slowly get shredded apart and explosives take out whole sides of walls, it really makes you have to think about how you approach these levels and really forces team tactics.
What we've done is we've allowed people to, when they've taken down an enemy, they can collect intel from that enemy. Using that intel, they can just fire off little perks which will help them turn the tide of battle.
And this is really kind of, you get out of jail free card for the game. So if you find yourself getting the jump on a load of people, then why not trigger explosive bullets and just let it fly on them? It's going to send them flying.
There's radar, which shows up AI in the environment for you. There's adrenaline, which gives you a short amount of invincibility. And then finally, there's the airstrike, which just destroys everything around you.
My favourite level in Bodycount so far is the China fishing slums. It's a gorgeously lit neon environment with a lot of fogging, a lot of opportunity to stealth around and get the jump on some people in there.
There is a stage set later in the game, in the second act of the game, that we refer to as the Old City Streets. It's a beautifully directed stage. It looks fantastic. From a design perspective, I love it because the space fluctuates. You know, it's very tight quarters, kind of shantytown type combat, moving out to really wide range stuff. We say in the office that realism is just a springboard for Bodycount. And when you look at the exaggerated physics and the huge explosions, really, we think that's the best way to be.
It's more about taking cues from reality and then mucking about with the rules when we can.
What we've achieved with Bodycount is bringing that huge, shreddable, violent, explosive experience directly into multiplayer.